To the left, we have the Samsung S95b. To the right, we have the LG C1. Now, the reason the LG C1 looks so much better than the S95b right now is because the S95b is rocking the industry standard reference accurate calibration. This is what every purist and so-called professional like Vincent over at HDTV Test calls reference accurate, making claims that the only, or rather greatest trick the Samsung S95b is capable of is just, being oversaturated more or less, or inaccurate. So when you rock the so-called reference accuracy, this is what it looks like compared to something that goes beyond reference right here. As you can clearly see, there's a world of difference. And now the LG C2 actually looks like, or C1 rather, actually looks like the Quantum Dot OLED. So if you don't want to experience that as your difference, then you are going to go beyond reference. Now, there's no secret here. I have settings here for $5. It helps the channel grow because we are an independent channel, crowd and self-funded. So the reality is, this is what it looks like before you plug in my settings, okay? Let me show you what it looks like after in real time, okay? There's Cal Night, calibration mode, right? Post calibration, before, behold, after. And there you go. Now, the Samsung S95b dominates anything the LG C2 is capable of producing. This is what happens when you go beyond reference standards and you use them as such. And I want to say this on video. Reference standards are just that. They are a reference point, a guide. They are not a regulation. And every single image purist like Vincent over at HDTV Test, using that reference standard nonsense to establish some sort of credibility is bogus nonsense. Because the fact is, TVs have these settings for a reason, and we are meant to take them to the next level. And if you don't want to do that, by all means, I'm probably not the guy to watch, because I love taking things to the next level and showing you what TVs can do. Now, if you're like me and you want to see beyond reference, again, join, become a member, and see what I have here. Because this is not a stock calibration, and I am not whipping these TVs out of the box to do these comparisons, okay? So, now that we got all that housekeeping out of the way, it's immediate that the Samsung S95b is delivering the substantially better picture quality. You have more highlight detail, you have more vibrant color, and the image just really draws you over immediately. I mean, doesn't really matter what scene you select in the Matrix, the color purity, the accuracy, and the realism behind the skin tones destroys anything WOLED has produced thus far. This scene alone is so ridiculous by comparison that, like, you look at the OLED and you're just like, on the LG side of things to the right, and you're like, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, I like LG, but Samsung this year with Quantum Dot OLED is taking it to the absolute next level. And I think people who are gonna see images like this will realize that the differences are vast. And I think, again, the quantum dots are really making the game-changing experience what it is. Now, to be fair, LG has excellent clarity and excellent detail on this shot, and it does look nice. But Samsung, again, going above and beyond. And we can see this theme across everything. Now, as I look at this image, it's really kind of like a tail of the tape for the Samsung S95b. Really, this is just total domination at this point, because now we're seeing Samsung deliver way better yellow behind the character here. We're seeing more realistic skin tones, and like this theme is seen across all kinds of the content that we're putting out here, and just showing you like it truly is a step forward. Now, again, we watch these TVs for picture quality, and if we are to look at picture quality, there can be absolutely no doubt that what Samsung is doing this year is better. That doesn't mean that LG is terrible or it's the worst we've ever seen on planet Earth, but again, we must be fair about what we're talking about here. Samsung is doing something better than LG. Now, LG does get subtle tones of hues correct and nice. I do like the way they render cyans, which in turn interact with darker blues like now. I do like the way that the cyan is represented here, which creates a different hue to the color blue. But those are some fine, nuanced, nitpicky details that will not be seen as easily as things like this. How there's just a stark difference between one versus the other, and it is very clear upon impact when you are looking at something that just has more color, more life, more expression, and changes the mold of what we thought TVs were capable of from the OLED market. Samsung secretly rolled out this TV out of nowhere, seemingly overnight. And it seems like the moment I say that this is the best TV to purchase to date, every single so-called professional is working around the clock to tear this TV down. If you see this TV yourself, you will realize that this is the treat of treats. The highlight detail is undeniable. The contrast is undeniable. The clarity is undeniable. Like, I'm looking side by side. LG literally cannot keep up with this level of contrast and clarity. They just can't. And again, a lot of it is attributed to their limited brightness. I mean, the depth coming off of the scene right now on the Samsung S95b with the color right now, my eyes flew over to it, man. You can't make this stuff up. And I love using images like this to show you with native screen grabs of movies. This is reality. You're gonna be watching these films and you're gonna be seeing exactly what I'm seeing in all of these scenes. And the thing is, no matter how you look at it, from whatever angle, this TV truly bridges the gap between OLED and LED. You want nice, rich highlights like we have in the back here? You get that on the S95b. You want beautiful contrast and color rendition in the face, especially in this area here, like unreal. You got that. You want clarity, you want deep inky black levels, you want excellent motion, you got that on this set. And I think, again, it's gonna start turning more and more and more into a domination and a very clear victory in 2022 for Samsung with the S95b. When we talk about anime content, the Samsung S95b destroys the LG in pretty much every conceivable way possible. The highlight details, the contrast, clarity, the depth, it really draws you in to make you want to watch that anime content with juicy highlights and color rendition that frankly will not be picked up on camera because of the high peak brightness. It probably will look like it's just clipping and everything will look blown out. But I'm telling you right now, this TV is absolutely destroying my LG C1. Destroying it. Like, this highlight right now on the screen is to die for. It's just juiced up, beautiful, and all the colors associated with it, forget about it. Like, the C1 is nice, it looks good, but like, you don't have this level of pop. And again, it's this kind of stuff that I love drawing your attention to, because as you have people like Vincent Teo on HDTV Test trying to say that this TV struggles to maintain 600 nits and all this nonsense, like, this is a light cannon. This TV is very visibly brighter than anything LG is doing right now. I'm running into so much clipping that it's ridiculous. Now, the image on the left is a lot dimmer, and again, the image on the right is a lot dimmer on the C1, and the image on the left is a lot brighter. Again, I can't stress, that's going to run into some clipping issues, and you are not going to be able to see all the colors and all the beauty that comes with that. That's what it means to have limited dynamic range, folks. So you're going to have to listen to what I'm saying here. But just look at the difference is in terms of brightness, and hopefully maybe some of the highlights will be able to shine through. I mean, it's just incredible. I'll try to lower it down a little bit so you can see it a little better. I don't know if that's going to work. Probably not. But I mean, the thing is a freaking light cannon. And I'm looking at the depth, right, that is associated with it. And this is literally like beyond what the A90J was doing. It's just so beautiful. It's like you get all of that like detailed luminosity and all of that throw behind your colors and everything. Like, you don't have to sacrifice. So when watching anime, this thing turns into like the ultimate gift, really, because now in every scene you are seeing it expressed in a way that LG just cannot express it. It's just dimmer by comparison. Try to open this back up now that my camera wants to start dimming down just a little bit more. Hopefully you can see. I mean, it's so hard to stay on top of, like, the luminosity changes between these two TVs are enormous, freaking enormous. And that really is what makes a lot of the LG feel a lot more stale. Like Deku's powers, you see all of it coursing through his body here, and it's so popping and punching, and it draws you in, where the LG just doesn't have that effect, along with that bright fire behind Deku. I mean, these are things in these moments where you're going to want to see an anime, and it really, day and night, day and freaking night. To say anything else is a lie. I mean, like, the Samsung S95b is like a 3D TV without 3D glasses. Like, it's ridiculous. Now we're running into a lot of brightness, so I'll have to lower it down a little bit. Hopefully you can see it. It's insane. This TV, man, I mean, if you're an anime fan, I absolutely say this is one of the usages where you're just going to be absolutely like drooling over this thing, because in every example that I can think to show you, Now we'll raise it again now that it's not freaking out on us. I mean, every example that I could think to show you, like it hits so incredibly hard. And again, the LG C2 is not falling too far behind. As you can clearly see, it has beautiful color. And again, that's attributed to going beyond reference. And again, I can show you guys how to do that with my settings and all that good stuff. But I mean, really though, like you're not getting the same image quality, man. You just, I have to be dramatic like this and show this off. Now again, the Samsung is clipping on camera. I cannot capture this level of peak brightness. I mean, the thing is not messing around with anybody. It's really not. It's no mercy. It's just like dominating when you get to these colors. And that level of contrast and kick is, bro, it's something special. Now, I want to point this out right now, to be very honest with everybody here. This is where the C1 slaughters Samsung. Cyan representation. Just look at that. The Samsung can't do that. It literally cannot produce that, right? And the reason for this is because they don't have a hue, saturation, luminance way of adjusting the colors. So I can't get it as flawless as I can on the LG C1, especially with it being a WRGB, you know, that being the strong suit, the color accuracy behind blue being the strong suit of WRGB OLEDs. And it's one of those things where we really just have to kind of take our loss there with the color cyan, I suppose, but it's not bad either. Now again, this is, the luminosity is too much for the camera. You're just not going to get everything like I'm seeing here. But really, outside of that one color and that one, because I mean, every TV has a problem color. Outside of that problem color, this thing is a grand spectacle. Like Todoroki right now, throwing around that fire, bro. Like you are not getting that, man. You are not getting that on the C1. But you are getting that accuracy behind the skyline and all of that color clarity. All of that accuracy is there. So it's hard because it's like, in watching anime, you will see some things, but it trades back and forth. But ultimately, I still prefer the look of this right over here, because this is, bro, it's slapping, man. It's slapping so very hard, and you can't, how do you, bro, look at that highlight right now. I don't even know if you can see it all the way. I'll try to frame it differently. You know what I mean? Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the framing. I mean, really, like, look at the wall back there, dude. Look at the brightness that comes off. It's just dim by comparison here. These are real world differences. All of it, it's real world. And I think this is what makes it so amazing. Like, look at how dim All Might is right now. This is what you're going to start experiencing the more you start cycling through different types of content. And I think if you don't want to see those differences, then maybe it's easy to pass this off as its greatest trick being sucking in calibrators that don't know what reference accuracy is. But if you're somebody that knows what true accuracy is, I mean, like you can't tell me the director didn't intend for you to see these juicy, beautiful, glorious highlights. Like, that's wonderful. Like, you, of course, in those bright moments want that. And I think that's what makes this so special. Samsung this year really is just going to the barn and just coming out with something heavy, man. I tell you, it's crazy. Now, again, color cyan all day, every day, though. LG is beating that ass. And you can see it here. I mean, just look at this building. Now my image is way too dark. My camera is doing some crazy funky stuff. But you guys can see it clearly here. I mean, just look at all of that. Beautiful. And that's what I love so much about the C1. So for those thinking this is just totally biased nonsense, not at all. My C1 is still an excellent champion, and you can easily see it kicking ass when you talk about Cyan. So it's going to go back and forth. And that's really like a lot of the message here. Now, to be fair, it doesn't go back and forth enough. And that's what we have to represent. It doesn't go back and forth to the degree of like Samsung being rendered useless. So I think, again, you're really going to have to pick your battles. I mean, I love the Cyan. I mean, the accuracy on the C1 right now is beating out the Samsung S95b. However, I mean, again, in different kind of content, this kind of thing can easily change. In terms of gaming, I'm going to call it for the Samsung S95b because of the highlight detail, clarity, and just pure vibrancy that the thing kicks off. Albeit the LG C1 is not very far behind at all, rocking my beyond reference settings. I mean, it's so very close that it's mind-blowing. And frankly, the depth that comes off of the LG C1 is immense. It really is. It's to the point where you almost want to call it a tie because of just how much depth that just radiates from the C1. But the thing is, when you really look carefully, you can see nuanced details that just don't exist on the C1, and the C1 will never have the capability of producing. Like now, I mean, those highlight rich scenes really blast in the proper way, and it makes a world of difference when we're talking about content. So here's the deal, folks. When we're talking about the Samsung S95b to the left versus the LG C1, this was not an easy comparison to do. It really wasn't. On the one hand, you want to say that they tie because they are very strong TVs, and looking at them, LG gives you accuracy behind the color blue. Samsung just slaps you to the floor with your expectations. And it gets to a point where you go back and forth and you're looking at all the things both of these TVs do, and you really find it hard to pick a winner. Now, I'm in a lucky situation where I don't have to pick a winner. I actually own both of these TVs, not justifying my purchase, as I think I've said in this video. Can't keep track at this point, okay? Because I'm just doing a play-by-play and telling you what I'm seeing. But here's the thing, if you had to pick, right, you G-shit have no choice, okay? I would honestly say buy the Samsung S95b. It is basically giving you a QLED performance and an OLED performance in a single OLED experience. 1500 plus nits on a peak, 1400 sustained, ridiculously bright all throughout the SDR spectrum. And then if that's not good enough, you have vibrant primary colors and really all the colors in general that the C1 just cannot keep up with, okay? It can't. And then you have highlight detail, as I mentioned, nuance, clarity in general, contrast, motion is pretty equivalent, very smooth TV. Not quite as smooth as the C1, but basically there. I mean, but like when you talk about the immersion and you talk about why you bought it, which was picture quality, the Samsung does give you the better picture quality, and it will be the more future-proof between these two displays because of the level of picture quality that it's hitting at.